For a long period of time, whenever we ask ourselves about space, often we think of large satellites, large rockets that travel tens of thousands of kilometers into orbit, as well as advanced agencies and even government-led agencies. And that's actually the actual perception that I had myself, and it was true for a long period of time. Now, with the development of technologies, access to space became much, much easier. And I'm here today to ask a main question. Who said space isn't for you? Space, for decades, used to be far. We need large rockets that get launched into orbit to take a single satellite with them. Indeed, it used to travel for tens of thousands of kilometers, specifically to the geostationary orbit, stationed at around 36,000 kilometers. And only a subset of people got the chance to play a role in the field because of the limited access to resources, or basically because they thought that they don't have what it takes to dive into the industry. So both questions might be true, or both perspectives. However, the main aspect that I take into consideration, and I've seen it firsthand, is that if we don't show young innovators, maybe they're curious, maybe they have what it takes, but if they've never seen the door, how would they imagine that they can enter it? This has changed in the past few years. Satellites became much more accessible until we reach satellites that are exactly the size of my hand. A 10 centimeter times 10 times 10 CubeSat is the smallest satellite that you might work on nowadays and have it properly functioning into orbit. And of course, the mutualization of satellites is becoming smaller and smaller, where a satellite just like the one I have, as for now, might cost as affordable as $5,000 to develop. And it becomes much, much easier to build it by young innovators who can dive into the industry and shine in it. Now, maybe one of the questions that you might have in mind, why space? Why should we go to another planet or go up in orbit if we have a lot of issues to solve on Earth? I also had the same question when I dived into the industry by coincidence, and then I stayed by choice. The main aspect that makes space unique is that it plays a huge role in our day-to-day life. So, if we're talking about TV broadcasting, yes, many of us had receivers above their houses, and we had satellites communicating and getting our broadcasting. Radios, of course, work in the same technology. However, nowadays, satellite-based Wi-Fi became a major thing. Maybe for some areas in the world, it might be a luxurious experience where you go on your, let's say, summer trip and you have connected Wi-Fi in places that you wanted to isolate yourself, but it's playing a major role in a lot of areas that were considered rural, and it gave us a more connected world. Another use case for satellites that we use nowadays is navigation. Yes, a lot of you, I guess, used Google Maps to navigate your way here, but I'm not just talking about navigation applications. It's getting embedded within ships, airplanes, and even now cars, where they're autonomously driving themselves by directly connecting themselves to satellites. And there is also the Earth observation aspect, where we are checking out different phenomena constantly, and this gives us the luxury and also the necessity of checking out different places without having to go there physically, identifying potential wildfires, also oil spills, and any possible issue that might come in mind, and it's countless. And this directly aligns with the climate and disaster response aspect, as it's playing a proper major role in the field. Now, the industry is quite big. 613 billion in 2024. Imagine telling you that you're keeping yourself isolated from an industry because you're having the previous perception that it's almost impossible to crack it. Now, for any entrepreneur in the room, maybe it's an interesting aspect. How can we dive into the space industry? And that was the question. Is it just building satellites and launching them? What if I don't have the cost of launch? Or I don't have those clean rooms and facilities? The main aspect that this amount of valuation pours into is quite vast. Whether you're talking about education, advanced AI systems, as well as other application layers that we see nowadays in our daily life. And it's soon reaching a $1 trillion in terms of value. And even I've seen that it might reach $1.8 trillion by 2035. So it is growing, and it has been growing massively. A big major shift in mindset as well as in opportunities that happened in the past few years was the ride-sharing experience. To launch a satellite, I've mentioned that basically you need a large rocket to launch a single satellite. Nowadays, it's just like carpooling. You get few satellites together, and this amount of few satellites might reach to 131 satellites, just like the one that I observed, where they come together, each of them participates in part of the launch process, and especially with the new reusability of launch vehicles, it became much, much more accessible. And I've seen it myself. The Falcon 9 Transporter 12 launch carried 131 satellites into orbit. And we had several UAE satellites that we are proud of. Whether it's let's say a medium-sized satellite, such as Mohammed bin Zayed SAT, developed by Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center here in Dubai, that was around 700 kilograms in weight or in mass. And at the same time, a lot of engineers took the next step during their journey. So it wasn't their first satellite working on it. And a lot of those components were developed in the country, as well as a lot of capabilities. Or going to a very small CubeSat, just like the one I showed you, that was developed by university students from the Higher College of Technology. So we had around 30 university students come together and build that CubeSat. Not just launching a satellite into orbit, but rather launching their dreams into it. And in between, there is a satellite that I played a role in, Al-Ainsat, where it was in the intersection between developed satellites and satellite-based, student-based projects, where we got the whole satellite life cycle with all of the accountability and the challenges between it. And we've seen it go to orbit. At that moment, it was the best moment on Earth. Seeing a satellite that carries your own city's name getting launched into orbit alongside other satellites that all carry the same vision and mission of the country. But before that, let me dive into my story. So, I started as a high school student, got good grades, and got different majors to study in. My parents, as I guess some of you might relate, chose one of the engineering majors for me. They thought that it would have a bright future. And they're right about that, to be honest. But I didn't fit in that major specifically. I felt that I wanted something more challenging or something that relates more to me. So approximately after 6 months of going into that major, I was lucky enough that I didn't get a lot of major courses in that specific major, so I got the chance to shift to another major. That other major was electrical engineering. And from there, I continued my university journey, and as you know, the studies and then the graduation project and the rest of the things, until I landed an internship. At that time, one of my family members told me, "Do you want to get a research internship in the space industry?" I was like, "Oh, cool. Where are you taking me?" He said, "Here in Al Ain." I was like, "Okay, interesting. I didn't know that we have a space center in Al Ain." And then I realized we have that advanced center where I got my internship. And from there, I understood the deep layer of space and how it's embedded in our daily lives. From there, the journey continued until I worked on a onboard computer, diving into our satellite, becoming a systems engineer in it, and the rest of the story. However, after spending hours and hours in the lab, and sometimes I always have that photo, this one specifically, the 2 in it is 2 a.m. It's not 2 p.m. So we actually spent around sometimes 22 hours at work because we had one vision. Can we reach orbit? We should not miss that lunch. So with this perception, we continued, and I got the chance to understand. And maybe that's one of the key takeaways that I want to give out today, that in terms of space, we're other than the application layer, whatever you develop in terms of mechanical engineering aspects, electrical aspects, software aspects, or even the AI used on orbit, the edge computing and processing, we can reutilize it in other sectors. And a lot of sectors, talking about drones, underwater ROVs, electric vehicles, and you can name it. And from that perspective, my turning point was simple. I wanted to touch what I was learning. I was doing my master's degree and in parallel working in the industry. And from there, I embarked on a new journey to try to make space accessible for students. Students like me that didn't get the chance to touch satellites or even imagine how satellites would look, looking them at TV only, and to discover that they can join workshops or experiences in their own city. I've traveled during that and got to work with a lot of students, seeing their curiosity, their passion to learning, and breaking barriers. Asking myself, what can we do more to play a role in such a growing industry, as well as showing students and young innovators, as well as anyone sitting out here, that space is not far. Maybe my call for action today is that if you think that you want to learn more about space, I would definitely recommend going to an event, a space event in your city, going to a workshop that is nearby, or at least watching a YouTube video that summarizes how space is very close to us. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can simply buy a DIY kit and start building your own satellite. You don't need those clean rooms and the advanced technologies. If you're passionate about it, you can start no matter where you are, and then you can move to the next steps and eventually join the industry, whether through its entrepreneurship sector or through the development sector with those large agencies. And as space became smaller, now the opportunity must become bigger. And I guess the next time you see a young student asking whether space is for me or not, the first question that comes in mind, who said that space is not for you?